Skytail or something? Yeah.
Alright, we'll leave that door open because it's the rule of
I
the
still
game.
remember from last year your presentation. It was very good. Well, very well done. I think of it every time. Now, you gotta do it on a diagonal. You can't just take straight cut. it sits in my head.
Alright, it's about 5 after, so let's get started. Thank you all for coming. I hope no one's in a food coma, because I love this topic and I hope to share my joy with you today. My name is Ruth Carter. I am a licensed attorney in the state of Arizona. I own my own law firm, Carter Law Firm in Phoenix, and my firm specializes in social media law, flash mob law, intellectual property, and business formation and contracts. That's my Twitter handle, so feel free to tweet about me at will.
What was the name of your firm?
Carter Law Firm. And feel free to interrupt me with questions along the way. I want this to be pretty interactive. If there are questions, if I talk too fast, tell me to slow down. I sometimes don't realize I'm going too fast. And if you don't understand anything, tell me to explain it, because I forget that I live and breathe this stuff all day, and that my vocabulary changed a lot when I went to law school. So I try to speak in layman's terms at all times, but I sometimes forget where that line is. So awesome. So today we're going to talk about the 10 questions you ask before you hit publish on your blog. I've been blogging since 2009. Right now I write for 4 blogs. The main ones are the Undeniable Ruth and Carter Law Firm blogs. And I've had a lot of questions along the way about what I could and couldn't put on my blog, and so that's kind of where this got started. And it kind of culminated in the writing of my first book. Came out last month. The Legal Side of Blogging: How Not to Get Sued, Fired, Arrested, or Killed. Yes, you can be legally killed because of your blog. Just not in the U.S.
Well, they just have the reasons. Not in the U.S.
Not in the U.S.? That's right, it did. So yeah, kind of I got my top 10 questions from here, so if you want more than the Reader's Digest version, this is on Amazon.
Cool.
Okay, every time I give a talk, I give my standard disclaimer. I am an attorney. However, I am not your attorney. If you need personal legal advice, go hire somebody. I'm simply here to provide general legal information, so don't walk out of here thinking that you know everything you need to know about your blog, because you don't. I'm not saying you're stupid, I'm saying that I can't cover everything in 1 hour.
I was looking forward to the free counsel today.
It takes a lot more to get free legal counsel out of me. Okay, so,
Oh, and I can see where you're doing the copyright down.
well, that's Creative Commons. Yeah, always give my attributions. I got into blogging because I like having a soapbox to stand on and spout off about my opinions, my experiences. I'm guessing that's why other people got into blogging in part too. And one of the things I've learned along the way through my own experiences and talking with other bloggers and media attorneys is a lot of times the line between pushing the envelope and crossing the line is really, really thin. And most people who make mistakes don't realize they're making mistakes, and they're minor mistakes like an omission or a misstatement. And even though you think it was just a little mistake, you can just go in and do a quick edit and fix it. You still could do a lot of damage and unfortunately get sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, yeah, it's bad. All right, get into the questions. Basic question number 1. Did I write my stuff myself? Generally, if you wrote it yourself, you're most likely not committing copyright infringement. Now, there is something called fair use, which is part of the copyright law that lets you use other people's material as long as you are adding your own original thoughts to it. So yeah, I had some guy earlier this year steal a couple of paragraphs off my blog. I went after him, and I won. I did what's called a Digital Millennium Copyright Act takedown notice, but all he did on his blog was put up his own title, 2 paragraphs from my blog, and a biblical verse. So he had no original thought in that. So never ask my permission to use my work. So yeah, rule number 1, did I write my own stuff? So, I'm guessing most people do have a blog so that they can share their own thoughts, so most people don't want to steal. I remember I have pictures. Alright, rule number 2. Is all the information in my post verifiable? Can you prove the facts that you're writing about in your posts? You know, can you point to, you know, I mean, it's nice when you write a blog to put links to other sites where you got your information, just because it's nice to give kudos to your sources. But also, it covers your ass. It lets people know, hey, I'm not making it up, I looked it up. So, that's pretty self-explanatory. Prove what you're claiming is true is true. Alright. Now, when you write, I'm guessing everything you write about isn't a fact, and you can't point to a source. So, in those cases, is every statement that isn't verifiable indisputable? So, is it a statement where no one can say that you were wrong? If I blogged about my favorite color being blue, which it is, as long as I don't have another blog out there that says my favorite color is pink, it's indisputable. It's just my opinion. If I want to do a review about this painting, you can't really argue with an opinion. You want to be very careful, because a lot of people think that adding, a lot of people think adding the phrase "in my opinion" turns whatever they say after that into their opinion. So if you want to do a blog, you want to write a sentence that says like, "In my opinion, my neighbor's a pedophile." Yeah, that's not going to cover you. You didn't just, the courts have spoken, that does not save you. What you said is, I have an opinion, and then it's just as bad to say, my neighbor's a pedophile as, in my opinion, my neighbor's a pedophile. So don't think that if I add that phrase, and it must be my opinion, it's like, no. Now if you said, you know, I can't say that was a fact. You know, we just got off the campaign. So if you said XYZ candidate is an ass, I think the general rule understands that, you know, that's your opinion.
But it's also a political candidate. That's under First Amendment.
Yeah, it still could be that. But people understand that versus if someone said like, hey, XYZ, you know, had an affair, you know, that's making a statement as a fact. So, Joe.
So with false statements, this is news to me. And so like, how does Gawker stay in business? Because they're snark, they're a little bit of news, a little bit of celebrity, they have high exposure, they stretch statements. Like, what is that fine line between free expression and like, libel?
Okay, so I would look at the site. I'm not very familiar with Gawker, but I'm gonna guess it's a place where everyone knows that the truth may be stretched.
Right.
I think of it. The one example I use in my mind is the Onion. Everybody knows if you get something off the Onion, it's not true. So that's when you look at the whole purpose of the site. So if everyone knows everything on this site is fake, then everyone kind of knows coming in the door, don't treat it like it's true. Now, I actually saw somewhere recently where someone like used the Onion as a real source, and everyone laughed at it. It's like, dude, like, did you not check where that came from? Because you used it incorrectly, and you should have known that it was fake. The other issue is that the people that could be offended, like let's say they made a false statement about you, if you didn't care, you're the only person that could go after them for libel. So if you're not going to sue them, you're good to go.
Right. Okay.
Question?
Yeah, we got a question from Tyler Hurst on Twitter. He says, "What if you say, I think my neighbor may be a pedophile?"
Hi, Tyler. Oh, yeah. By the way, I'm wearing a Brand X shirt. Hope you are too. I love Tyler. So the statement was, I think my neighbor's a pedophile.
Maybe a pedophile.
Maybe a pedophile. I'm not giving you legal advice, Tyler. What probably the route that I would take on my blog is if I wanted to write about something like that. I wouldn't go as far to say that someone's a pedophile. I would say I get the creeps when I see my neighbors playing with kids, and let other people make the inference. You know, if you want to start connecting, you know, showing where the dots are, but let other people connect them. That's one way to keep yourself okay. But if you go in general, if you say something that could be seen as a statement of fact, like my neighbor's a pedophile, just don't do it. So Tyler, before you post that blog, just call me. You have my number.
Let me expand on that for a second, because you're just saying my neighbor. That's vague. So I mean, really, that really is not a
identifiable person.
Yeah, correct. So where if I send my neighbor to the right at XYZ address, or John Smith, my neighbor, like my ex-wife is getting married again. I mean, she'll be dating soon, so it's like, you know, that's an identifiable person.
Right, versus my neighbor, it could be like one of, you know, depending on your neighborhood, like one of 6 people.
Or 186 if you live in a complex.
That's true. So depending on how you define neighbor, that might be enough to keep you protected. But if you live in a small town, that may not be. It's one of those, you gotta look at the total circumstances.
Err on the side of safety.
Yeah, err on the side of covering your ass.
Be nice. Say nice things. Could you say a nice thing about your neighbor?
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so it's going, since we're on the topic, did I accuse anybody of a crime? So that's part of the whole pedophile thing. The story for this one, real case in California. A guy fired his attorney, didn't like him, and went on some kind of review site like Yelp or Avvo or one of those, and as part of his review said, this guy's a thief. Lawyer sued him for defamation, because being a thief is a crime. Being a ripoff is not, necessarily. And so the lawyer sued the client, now ex-client, for defamation, and the ex-client said, I'm entitled to my own opinion, or this is my experience. Everyone knows that being a thief is the same as being, you know, overpriced. And the judge said, no, this case can keep going, because being a thief is actually a crime versus I paid too much for what I got. So yeah, it's generally not a good idea unless you know that someone has actually been convicted of calling them a, you know, murderer, rapist, pedophile, thief.
What about scam?
What about a scam?
Because that's under fraud.
Yeah, can you prove it?
I don't know. If someone says, you know, such and such is operating a scam,
I would look at it more like, would it be in your best interest to write about your experience or what you've heard, and then say, this person has been reported to the authorities as being a potential scam. Or put the dots out there and let the readers connect them. So it's one thing if you like were from like a news source, like, oh, these people are being investigated as being a scam artist. That's when you have authority and other people supporting you, which means you're less likely to lose. Not a guarantee, because some people do just sue everybody when they're pissed off. Again, just because you get sued doesn't mean doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It doesn't mean you're gonna lose. But
it's a risk.
It's a risk. Yeah. You also have to look at who are you accusing, and are they going to come after you versus somebody else who maybe they're going to have a better case against, or someone who has a lot of money. I'm not saying you're poor, but
I don't have lawyer money.
But yeah, I mean, generally people sue and they think they can win, or they can get a lot of money. So if they don't think they have a good case for either of those, or usually both, they generally don't go after you that way. But you want to be careful. And there are questions about not accusing people of committing crimes, and just be careful. That's where you get in. You know, be careful with your word choice. What are you really saying? Okay. Question number 5. Did I share anything that I learned in confidence or where somebody had an expectation of privacy? This is getting into the situations like you just broke up with your significant other and you're really angry at them, and you want to write a blog post exposing all their like childhood traumatic experiences and their fetishes and their weird things and maybe some dirty pictures from the bedroom. Yeah, don't do that. Generally, in those relationships, there is an expectation of privacy, so even though you're angry and whatnot, you don't get to post it. Actually, something like that just happened recently here in the Valley. Apparently, from what I pieced together from the information, there was a couple who took intimate photographs during their relationships. They broke up. He had the photos, she didn't. He created a fake Facebook page in her name and used the intimate photos of her. She's a school teacher.
Oh no. And of course she can't get in there.
And she didn't find out that this fake profile existed until someone pointed it out to the principal, and the principal brought her in and said, "Can you explain this?" She had an expectation of privacy in those photographs. She may have all the copyright in them, but she had an expectation of privacy in them not being released.
So what's the repercussions for that?
For that, well, posting pornography on Facebook is a violation of Facebook's terms. So Facebook probably pulled the whole profile down.
I meant from a legal perspective.
From a legal
someone
perspective?
posting something that had an expectation of privacy.
You go after them for, there are invasion of privacy civil claims, and you go after them for that. The challenge in those cases is you have to prove who put the pictures up there. So whether it was the ex-boyfriend or what if his friends got a hold of it and they did it, you have to probably do some investigation through like the IP addresses to chase it back to the
a monetary settlement for that? Or?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You do something like that, you can, as long as the person has money to pay you with. So, yeah. But yeah, there's that. Also, let's say you're on a nude beach. You have no expectation of privacy of how you look naked because you shared that with the public. So if someone writes a blog post about it, there's nothing you can do versus, intimate things. Also, there are some professions where there is an expectation of privacy. Doctors, lawyers, priests, changing rooms, bathrooms, places where you have an expectation. So if anything was information or pictures from those settings, shouldn't be released without your permission. Awesome. Okay, this is when it starts getting kind of tricky. Are any of my statements a misrepresentation, a half-truth, or insinuates something that isn't true? So a couple things to think about. Let's say you find a story, and there's a quote you want to use, but it's too long for what the space you want to put it in, and so you want to use like the ... that called an ellipse, to shorten it. Make sure that when you shorten it, the message is the same. It's one thing to say Sarah was raped at a party hosted by John Smith versus Sarah was raped ... by John Smith. Two different statements, but one's a quote of the other. So kind of be careful when you're pulling information and modifying it, that you maintain the truth of the situation. Also, it could be a situation, actually this was a true story. A newspaper did a story about the plasma center and how drug users were donating plasma to get money to buy drugs to fund their habits. And they sent a reporter out to take a photograph of the plasma center. Just take a picture to stick with the story. So a reporter guy just goes out, snaps a picture, they use it. Unfortunately, when they took the picture, a prominent business person from the community was walking in front of the building.
Oh, no.
So now it's true that this town had a plasma center, and it was true when this photograph was taken, there really was this businessman walking in front of the building. But when you paired that photograph with that story, it insinuated that this prominent businessman used the plasma center to fund his drug habit. So if you're gonna, if you live next to a park and you want to write about, how you don't like the drug users getting high and passing out all over the park, and you take a picture of someone laying on the grass, I'd make sure that they were a drug user and not someone just taking a nap. So kind of make sure everything is factually true. When it comes to images, like I use Creative Commons images all the time. So I will guarantee that if I'm talking about a specific situation, the picture that I pick probably has nothing directly to do with it. It's more symbolic. But because it's Creative Commons and I talk about where your comes from in terms of the description, that's probably what covers me, and no one can say, well, you're insinuating that I was this. It's like, if you look it up, your picture was taken in Denmark, I live in Phoenix, and I'm talking about something going on in my life. There's no connection. So, alright? Everyone got it? We're good? Don't insinuate things that aren't true. Alright, back to information. Is all my information from reputable sources? So this is why you don't quote the unused fact. This is why when you see a story about Morgan Freeman being dead, you look it up, and make sure that he actually died and it's not just the hoax that's been going around for like 6 years now. If there's something that's tweeted, like, the New York Stock Exchange is under 3 feet of water, you may want to make sure that multiple sources say the same thing before you put it on your blog. Because unfortunately, if you repeat a statement that is defamatory, the person who is defamed can go after everybody who makes that statement, even if you didn't know that the statement wasn't true when you made it, or you thought it was true when you made it.
What about Reuters when they published Steve Jobs' his death? They accidentally published his obituary, and that was syndicated out in mass chaos on Twitter.
Okay.
But it was an accident.
Was he dead?
No.
Oh, okay. I missed that story.
Oh, okay.
It was a few years back.
Yeah, it was like a couple of years ago.
It didn't
before he died.
have a negative effect on the stock as well.
Yeah, it actually caused a financial impact.
Okay. So Reuters had pre-written an obituary just in case they needed it or something. I know they do that with some famous people.
He was famous people, yeah.
Okay, he was sick. So they released the obituary. He wasn't dead, and other people picked it up.
Yeah.
If Steve Jobs wanted to, he could have gone after everybody. But the only person who could have gone after him potentially was Steve Jobs.
Yeah, but if the stock tanked and I own 1,000 shares of it, I'm injured.
You're injured, yes. But when it comes to defamation, you have to have a false statement about a person that hurts their reputation. So.
Okay, well, not defamation. I sue him because I just lost $1 million on stock because of that report.
A total lie. This is not my area of law that I practice.
It's all good.
Yeah,
I'm just curious how complex it is.
Yeah, because you're talking about civil suits here. That's more of a criminal thing where someone's going out and trying to do things to influence the market.
Yeah, which I'm guessing Reuters wasn't. I'm guessing maybe someone just made a mistake. But yes, you were harmed, but I also would wonder, is that the risk you take by being a stockholder? Is that news about the company, true or false, could hurt your stock? That's what I would look at first, and whether you have an expectation that everything about the company is ever said is going to be true.
Yeah, I think the story was that Reuters had basically preparing in case they needed to write that story, and it got out without their expectation of it getting out. Some sort of practice story.
Okay. I've heard of that. I've heard that companies, or when there's a famous person.
Right, they're ready.
Yeah, they're ready, so that when the person dies, all they have to do is add one more sentence or 2 sentences and hit publish. So they're,
Sure, for the first one.
Yeah.
That's,
Just the date.
yeah.
Yeah, just get the time again.
Yeah. I know it happens. So, yeah. Oops. All right. Question number 8. What's my boss gonna say? Who has a personal blog here? Does your boss know about it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And encourage.
And encourages it. That's fantastic. In most states, and I'm going to say in my experience, most employment contracts say that you are an at-will employee. So if you, I don't work for anybody, but yeah. So if you are an at-will employee, that means that you can be fired for any reason or no reason at all, as long as that reason isn't illegal. So we have anti-discrimination laws. So if you blog about your religion, your boss can't fire you based on your religion. But if you blog about, how much you love puppies, and your boss hates puppies, your boss can fire you for that, and you have no repercussion.
There was one that I saw where a person had called in sick a certain day, and then they had posted things the night before from like at a Halloween party or something. So that's another way that can come out.
Oh yeah. If you're lying, don't post evidence to the contrary anywhere. That's just common sense.
Well,
Oh,
They don't think the boss is too clever.
something like
But
that.
they found out.
Yeah, they didn't realize that their Facebook isn't as private as they thought it was.
That's right.
But yeah, in general, if your boss doesn't like your blog, there's a chance you could be fired just because they don't like it. So yeah, it's kind of one of those mind your P's and Q's and be aware of who you work for and what your employment contract says. Yeah.
So just a quick question on that related right to work. So if you can be fired for any reason and for no reason at all, since there are illegal reasons, what stops the employer from saying we're just firing for no reason?
Yeah,
In
you
other
can do
words,
that.
if somebody is fired because they're black, but you say, well, I'm firing you not because you're black, but you don't voted for Obama. Firing for black is supposed to be illegal. Firing for Obama is not.
Well, that's supposed to be illegal too. If you're in the political, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on whether you're firing if they're a protected class or not. Like you can fire people for smoking because it's going to affect your health insurance rate. Your health insurance rate.
Yeah.
They can discriminate against certain classes or certain classes you can't.
That's right. I remember reading about an employer who said, like, I'm going to give you I put the whole company on notice, like, you have a year to quit smoking, and I will even, like, support it with, helping with classes or patches or, whatever. But yeah, as of, like, this date, if you're still smoking, you're gone. And that's not illegal. So, same thing with your blog. So, yeah. No, but why do employers just not say we're firing you for no reason? I don't know. I've never fired anybody. Employment law is not my area of expertise, so why more employers say that, I don't know. I believe the law says that they have to tell you the reason if there is one. And if you think you have a case, I think they're probably afraid that you're going to turn to like the EEOC or an attorney to figure that all out, because if you are fired for a reason that is, at least I can say in terms of social media, in violation of the National Labor Relations Act, what can happen is that your employer has to hire you back, pay you back pay for the time that you were fired, usually pay damages, and fire the person that's hired to take your place. Which the minimum damages, from what I heard from a friend, is like 10 grand, like the average. And I talked to a lawyer recently, he's like, yeah, that's a conservative number. So I think most employers, and this is just my guess, no evidence, is that they are trying to cover themselves, and that they have a valid reason for firing you, they want that documented. So, yeah. Because really, why would they go to the hassle of firing you just for sport? Unless your boss really is that much of an ass. Which they do exist. I'm sure. Alright, big question. Where did I get my images? This past year, I have learned that way more than I thought. A lot of people, when they need a picture for their blog, they just do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blows my mind. Yeah. If this is what you're doing to get your images, you are asking for so much trouble. So, yeah. I'm going to guess a lot of images that you find on a Google search are copyright protected, and if you use them, you just committed copyright infringement. And worst case scenario in a copyright infringement case is you will be sued for $150,000 for infringement and the attorney's fees. So it's a lot of money for, you did a 30-second search to find a pretty picture.
So, obviously hypothetical.
Yeah.
If I took a picture of I should be Camaro.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, let's take a picture. I grabbed the picture from Google Images, and it's from Hot Rod Magazine. Can I put this image as copyright Hot Rod Magazine? Give them attribution. And be okay?
And be okay? That would depend on Hot Rod Magazine.
Okay.
Because if they own copyright,
Yeah.
the only person that can come after you for copyright infringement is Hot Rod Magazine. So if they think that it's great that you're giving them free advertising, they might send you a thank you note.
Or a cease and desist.
They could send you a cease and desist. They could send you a lawsuit. They could go
don't
above your.
They don't have to send a cease and desist first.
Oh no.
Yeah.
They could go above your head and say, screw you. We're gonna work with your web host and just DMCA you. And a lot of people think, I don't know why they think that they just give the attribution. That's all it takes to protect themselves. I had that happen to me this summer. I believe it was a woman, took a picture off my site. And it was one of the few times that I had actually taken my own picture. I usually pull my images from Creative Commons. And at the bottom of the blog post, it said like, oh, images from, and for each image, she had like the name of the site with a link. So I saw in my analytics that an unfamiliar site had linked to mine, or someone got to my site through an unfamiliar link. So I just followed it back, and I was just like, hey, that's my picture. And I sent a Digital Millennium Copyright Act takedown notice to Google, because it was a blog spot, and they just pulled it. Yeah.
Does it matter if your image is copied and uploaded to the new site, or if they just embed your posted image on their site?
I'm going to say no.
Because they're publishing it. I don't think it matters either way if they're not linking it or not.
I know generally with like YouTube videos, the embedding protects it, protects you if that's what you do. So I would wonder that, because if...
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Okay.
But the rules of copyright say the copyright holder has the right to copy and distribute their image. So I could see someone getting mad or make an argument that what you did was an illegal copy of their work. Unless they have to go somehow through your original work to see it. Which I would wonder, I think that's how they get around it with YouTube and the embedding, is that you're not copying it, you're just
showing it from their site.
Yeah. So yeah, when I pull images, just kind of an FYI, I use creativecommons.org, and I don't understand how the whole Getty thing works. If you ever look at pictures on Flickr, a lot of pictures will say Creative Commons, but then say Getty, like Getty license available, and when you click on that, it asks for money. So I won't touch a Getty image. And I always look for images that say that I can modify and commercialize. Modifying lets me crop the picture if I'm so inclined. And commercializing means I can make money off of it. Now, when I first started blogging, I didn't make any money. I didn't have ads, I didn't sell anything, I just had a blog. But then I actually did make money off my blog. I guess about a year ago I did a paid, pay me to blog for you, or blog about you campaign. Didn't make a lot of money, but a little bit. And then in terms of my law firm, I may not be making money directly off my site, but I'm using it for a commercial purpose. So in terms of my personal blog, once I started making money off my blog, I was possibly commercializing all the images on my blog. So I had to make sure that I wasn't violating the license. So if you're not making money off your blog now, but you might want to make money off your blog later, and that could even be just selling ads. If you don't have the ability to commercialize any of your images, you have to pull them down, or the owner may come after you for some type of infringement. Yes, sir.
What about the stock photo you use on your blog?
What about a stock photo? Where'd you get it?
When you buy the license, you get it, but when you do commercial on your blog to sell other ads, what happens to those stock photos? Do you have the rights, or you have to take it down?
I would look at the license that came when you bought the photo, you bought the rights to use the stock photo. Would probably tell you. So there's not like one simple, easy. It's you gotta go back and look at the license and what you bought. Yeah.
Do you know anything about like Instagram and Instagram? If those have the universal kind of thing, or I've heard from some sources that those are just free rule, but
I would look at the website terms and conditions to see that. And then there's one thing to think of: if there's ever a picture that you want to use, and you can't get it under Creative Commons, just send the owner an email and ask if they can use it. I've never had anyone say no. Next, we have 2 photographers that say, if there's anything on my Flickr stream that you ever want to use, you can do it, but here's the attribution, you got to stick with it. So that's one way to get around copyright infringement with images. But don't do that. Bad. All right, last question. When was the last time I registered my blog with the U.S. Copyright Office? Has anyone registered their blog with the U.S. Copyright Office?
I didn't know you could.
Oh yeah, it's hard. Now it's because okay, wait.
Costly?
Depends on how you do it. You could register each blog you write as an individual literary work, which at their current rate is $35 a pop. So if you blog once a week, it gets expensive fast. Now you can also register a group of blog posts together under one $35 fee. Now the way the copyright laws work, y'all remember before I said that someone could sue you for up to $150,000 per image for copyright infringement? They can only do that if they register their work within 3 months of publication or 1 month of learning of the infringement, whichever happens first. So that means for most people, they register their copyright within 3 months of publication. So for bloggers, if they want to register their blog post as a group and maintain the right to go after people for up to $150,000 if someone steals their work, that means you have to register your stuff within 3 months of publication. So what I do for my blog, and I called the Copyright Office, and they said, yes, this is how you do it. Every 3 months, I register the entire content of my blog. I take all my posts, put them in one file. I recommend having an ongoing Word doc where every time you put up a new post, you just copy and paste it to that Word doc. Every 3 months, save it as a PDF and register it. That's how I'm doing it. And waiting 2.5 years to do that for the first time, yeah, it took me 2 days to compile that document. So I don't recommend doing that. But that's how you register a blog. And the Copyright Office has said that's the best way to do it. Yes?
So have you sued anyone yet?
I have not sued anybody yet. But now that I'm registered, before I had sent 2 DMCA takedown notices based on my blog. And maybe at one point I was like, you know, it would be so great to just have like another law firm that just goes after these people for me and I can get everything paid for. And I was like, yeah, you got to register your blog to do that. So,
I see.
Could I now? Yeah. Because the rules also state that if you want to sue someone for copyright infringement, you have to register your copyright. But if you're past that 3-month window of publication, you can only get your actual damages, which is the amount of money that you didn't make because the person stole your work, or the amount of money that the person made because they stole your stuff, which in a lot of cases isn't much. So you want the statutory damages, which lets you go up to $150,000. Yeah?
What about other countries? Have your company has been stolen by distributed to other bloggers?
I actually saw a situation like that where someone's work from Arizona was showing up on T-shirts, I think in India. And in general, there's not, once they cross country lines, there's not much you can do. You can look to see if like the site where it shows up. We'll take a Digital Millennium Copyright Act takedown notice, and you could try it. You could send them a bill. You could try to sue them, but it's generally hard to sue people over country lines, especially if they're more likely to ignore you than respond. So, yeah. All right, so yeah, most people don't register their stuff, and it's tragic. When you register your stuff, it goes in the Library of Congress. And I think I've had people call me and say, hey, my picture's on someone's site and I hate that guy, I hate this guy, or I hate this company, I want to go after him for money.
So you say register it.
Well, I know my first question is, have you registered your stuff? Have you registered the work? No. How long ago did you create it or take the picture? 2 years ago? Like, yeah, you can go after them, but it's not going to be worth your while. So, at least not for money, you can other ways to get it pulled down.
I'm going back to that.
Yeah.
Although that's really very good.
That's fun.
You said you send it every
3 months.
Every 3 months. Everything, or just the latest, the last, what you produced in the last 3 months? You don't start all over.
I do the total content.
You do the total
I do the
content
total content.
each time.
Every time.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's not hard.
No, it's not. I just was wondering.
No, it's a good question.
Okay, cool.
So back to the images thing. So what you're saying is if somebody has a blog post and they put a picture that they took by themselves onto their blog post a year ago, they then, because it's beyond the 3-month time period, even if you scrape that picture and use it on your blog, they could not get the 150 grand, but they could still have you take it down.
No, it's not.
What's that? If I take a photograph,
Yeah.
I own the copyright for it forever.
Well, you own the copyright, but in terms of how much money you can get when you sue somebody for copyright infringement changes after 3 months. So after 3 months, you can only get your actual damages. If you register your work within 3 months of publication, you can get statutory damages, which go up to 150 grand, regardless of how much money you lost due to the infringement.
So you're saying only use images from Google Images that are 4 months old.
CreativeCommons.org is your
Because
friend.
you don't know if it's been registered.
Yeah, but they gotta register it.
I have a suggestion. You know, in lieu of Creative Commons, also there's compfight.com, which
What is it again?
hooks into it. COMPfight.com. Honestly,
That
to
It
verify
just
the
searches
license.
Flickr. It just searches Flickr for
does.
for Creative
Looks like a
Commons.
back end to it, yeah.
Oh, okay, good to know.
I just hit the advanced search button on Flickr.
Yeah.
So one thing to think about when it comes to your blog, just because nobody sued you or sent you a cease and desist letter, it doesn't mean you didn't do something wrong. And it could be an indicator that the person that you harmed doesn't know that you harmed them. Or it could be that they're going to ignore you and hope that you go away. So, you know, maybe Obama has a gay lover. I don't know. But I'm guessing he wants people to think about and talk about what he cares about, not what people think he does in the sack. So that may be why he didn't go after Globe for defamation. You know, or hey,
Isn't Globe one of the examples though where we know everything in here is
It's
bogus
big,
anyway?
yeah.
oh no,
It's like the
people
Onion.
go after, you know, celebrities go after, you know, Globe and National
Yeah.
Enquirer all the time for telling fake stories.
Maybe
So.
it's Weekly World News.
Oh yeah, I think everyone knows, you know, Bat Boy and all that. Yeah, everyone knows that stuff. But they also don't. I don't think they go after celebrities in Weekly World News too often. Or do they? Maybe they do.
Elvis.
Well,
Elvis.
Elvis is dead. He can't get offended. All right. My friend David Bodney says, good editing is your best defense to any libel lawsuit. Libel is defamation. I say, don't put anything on the internet that you wouldn't, don't put anything on the internet that you wouldn't put on the front page of the newspaper. My other rule is assume that everything you post online will be seen by your best friend, your worst enemy, your boss, and your mother.
Yeah.
If you don't want one of those people to see it, maybe you shouldn't put it out there. So I've given you kind of the Reader Digest version of the do's and don'ts that I've learned about blogging. If you want the full scoop, I recommend you buy my book, The Legal Side of Blogging, How Not to Get Sued, Fired, Arrested, or Killed. Available in the Kindle store. ePublish Unum, who presented earlier this morning, helped me get published. So if you want to see what their class does to help, you know, a new author, here you go. And if you want more information about me,
I like your shoes.
thank you. I am an official American Bar Association Legal Rebel. Those are my official Legal Rebel sneakers. They're not comfortable, so I didn't wear them today. And it was raining, and I'm not about to screw those things up. There's only 12 pairs of those shoes in the country.
Oh,
so
my.
I have a pair. But yeah, this is how you can contact me if you want to pick my brain. I write a blog every week on carterlawaz.com about situations related to business ownership, blogging, intellectual property, social media, fun stuff. Yes, sir.
Are there any pending pieces of legislation for reforming any of the blogging laws currently that we know of?
Not that I've heard of specifically. I wouldn't be surprised if the next time they revise the copyright laws, if they put in a specific provision related to blogging. Because really when blogging came along, no one was really sure how you copyright it. It took some trial and error to figure out the best way. haven't heard anything specific about that. So, but social media is a constantly evolving world. So, and the laws weren't written with social media in mind. So it's always evolving in some area. So yeah, when in doubt, call an attorney to make sure what you think is true is still true. So that's the only thing I do. So, all right. Anything else?
If you take a picture of yourself that you actually take,
Yes.
and it features like trademarks of another company,
Okay.
can that company come after you for wearing like a T-shirt or reasonably?
Reasonably. I would look at, would they be happier that you're giving them free advertising?
That's what it sounds like.
And are you doing it as like claiming that you are representing the company versus I'm just wearing this shirt today?
Right.
Yeah, and probably most cases they're not going to be coming after you because you're not misrepresenting yourself as the company. It's just, look, I put this on today.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about Pinterest?
You totally got that question last time.
My general belief about Pinterest is copyright infringement city.
Yeah, I think so.
So I know when something is pinned, you can always trace it back to where they got it. Before I repin something, I would trace it back and make sure that the original source says that pinning is acceptable. I'm not on Pinterest, but I've actually written quite a bit about Pinterest and copyright, and it's dangerous. So yeah, I suspect, I can't prove it, but I suspect that there's probably the same amount of copyright infringement going on Pinterest as there is on YouTube. And I can find any TV show or movie I want to watch on YouTube these days. Anything else? I have my business card up here if anyone wants it, but otherwise enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Cards or the postcard? Cards.
No, they're articles.
What's that?
They're articles.
They're entries, like a journal entry.
Awesome, thanks.
No one whips out a notebook and says I'm writing a journal piece.
An article.
A journal. I journaled today. To me, articles, sounds. Only because I know all like the SEO spam and all that crap. But like, oh, you spun up a few articles on easy articles.
That's a good one. That's a good idea.
A lot of
Think
times
about
people say
that.
article when they mean like professional publication.
Right, and that's
That's
what
why I use it,
It
yeah.
could be a magazine publication. But. Cool.
Of course, it's the indefinite article.
Right. Yeah.
Oh god, that sounds like that. It's like indefinite article. It's like, calculus, physics, something.
It's a bad school reference.
It was awesome. Yeah. Great info. Loved it. I'll take a card.
Cards. Little card with postcards.
Do you know much about spam law? Like
Can spam?
yeah, like can spam legislation. Does Arizona have can spam?
It's an
I
actual
thought it
law.
was federal.
Well, I know it's federal, but there could be some state regulations around it.
I haven't heard of state regulations. I figured it was all federal, because also you get with spam, like who, like where did it come from?
Right.
Good, how are you?
You're asking.
See, we were looking at can spam voice and
I forgot to ask.
and
So
we
think
were
you did
trying
more
to
part of an
determine
LLC.
whether can spam
Do you
can
recommend that
spam
to
or
the
regular.
Well, you can spam.
Right, yeah. If it was can spam, it would be obvious.
Well,
But
when
can
you
spam
have
doesn't
an,
mean can.
when you have an
Yeah.
LLC,
Well, what's funny is that
And it
I would
doesn't
love to
matter.
enter into a semi-legal and or whatever debate.
yeah, it protects you from liability. So if
A
you
lot of
are
people have
sued,
some
the only assets
it's
that you
knows
go after
about
are
it.
the
It's a very
LLC.
old law.
And it's completely out of date for today's thing.
Exactly.
Because
at risk.
all
Well,
you
if you
have
do
to
nothing
do
wrong,
is
you're
put
not
a
gonna get
postal
sued.
address. And
Sure,
that's
it's
one
one
thing
thing
to
to
it. That's really the body of the law.
Yep, that's it. In fact,
Yeah.
we're running into that right now because we're changing
Depending
the
what you put out there,
mechanism
yeah.
for unsubscribe.
So
We're
one thing
going
with
to
LLCs, you
hammer
have to
them
make
for
sure
the
that
next
there
9
is
days.
a clear
we're going to a
division
click to
between
unsubscribe versus
the
currently
LLC versus
we
your
actually
personal.
parse
Like you have to have
the
separate
word
bank accounts and
unsubscribe in the email
things like
body
that.
that comes back to us.
One of the
What
challenges
company is it?
you
Choice
might run
Hotels?
into
Do
I
people
would talk
actually?
to an accountant before
Well, I
you
guess
do
some
it.
people they do.
Is
So
that
Ruth,
the IRS
Ruth,
would
Ruth,
do
In
Ruth,
fact,
Babs.
that's what we do.
Like
We
you
have
are
a
creating
dictionary
an
of
LLC
common
for like a hobby,
unsubscribed
like
phrases
some
and
people like on Etsy and things like
Unsubscribed.
that.
Interesting. Is it like a high volume?
So they
I mean,
you may
We send out
make a,
out
like a,
3.5
put a red
million
flag
per
on
day.
you, basically,
Okay.
or
So
hit their radar and create an
You gotta-
LLC
We're probably
just for
gonna
a
get
blog.
at least 2-3% unsubscribed.
So it's something
So
to
you're
kind
doing
of
the
think
email
about
marketing
before you
for
just run out and make
You guys work with an
LLCs.
outside agency? It's all in house.
Currently, it's
So-
all in-house. We're in the process of outsourcing.
Yeah, and
at least
also if
the
you're not
send
making
part of it
money,
Yeah.
if you're not doing it as a
strong.
business.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, they're very.
You
they're
may
getting
want
So
to
it'd be
make it
where,
look like
how's
it's
your
a
family?
hobby.
I have
Currently, pretty high compared to what we really want to be.
Yeah,
So,
it's something
the goal
to think
is
about.
to
You
be
know, you're making
around,
money, then you may want to be more
Ideally,
protective. And
0.1%. 1 out of 1,000.
Oh,
Look
yeah,
up.
we're
You
well
wanna
above that.
chat more and
And
get
one-
further
one
down the
I want to
line.
go through strong enough standards.
Let me know.
Well, they're going to help us with our reputation because our reputation and choice is horrendous.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's a lot of work.
so it does kind of bring up a really interesting point because we were going to do a promotion where people were going to take pictures of themselves or whatever at one of our hotels, and then we were going to use it in marketing and probably
You gotta have